I'm going to do a video tutorial for you showing you how to create the Varsity vinyl font that you see here on my computer screen while adding this rhinestone accent both here inside the vinyl and also in these areas here in the middle of your image. We're going to do this today using the Silhouette Studio Designer program. There's several ways that you can do this with different programs, and there's actually a few different ways that you can do it even within Silhouette. I'll be showing you the way that I think works best for myself personally. And if you have any questions about anything that you see me doing, please be sure to send me a message, like us on Facebook, and I'll do my best to help you out. And if you have a question regarding how to do something specific within the tutorial, I can also create a new tutorial to show you all how to do any other issues that you're having. Okay, so to get started, I'm going to go ahead and delete this off of my screen. And when you open up your Silhouette program here, you're going to come over to the far left. I want you to left click on your text option, and we're going to now left click on our work area, and we're going to type in a capital B. And now I'm going to work with the B today mostly to show you because it also has these inside center areas of the B as well, not just the outer edge. And that's going to help me teach you how to do a little bit more with some of these fonts. So if you're working with a B, if you're working with a P, a, a D, anything that is a closed space that has a center area, you're going to want to know how to do this. So now that I've switched my font on my screen to the Varsity font, I now need to resize this so that I know that I can fit my rhinestones in my design. And so I'm going to want about an 8.5 inch height on this text. If I go too much smaller than 8.5 inches, what's going to happen is the weeded out space that I have to work with for my rhinestones is not going to be big enough to fit my SS10 stones. So what I'm going to do right now so that you can see this a little bit better is once you have your font or your text selected and resized to the 8.5 inches in height, you're going to come up here to the top far left option, and you're going to left click on that, and that's to change your fill color. We're just going to go to our basic options if that doesn't open up automatically, and I'm going to change it back to red so it matches how we first started. We'll zoom in here a little bit more so you can see what I'm working with. Now, what I was talking about with the space for your rhinestones to fit is this entire letter that you see here on the screen where you have the red is actually going to be vinyl on our finished product. And so the white spaces in here, and also right in here on the screen are where my rhinestones need to fit. If I shrink this down too much smaller than 8.5 inches, I'm not going to have enough space in here for my SS10 stones to fit, and that's okay. If you want to shrink the font down, you'll just need to switch over to an SS6 if you go too much smaller than the 8.5 inches in height. You also have the option you can enlarge it even more, and if you'd like to, you can then work with the SS16s and use those in your finished product. But for the tutorial, we're just going to work with the 8.5 inch height here and show you with SS10 rhinestones. So now that I have my font changed to a fill color, I've got my 8.5 inches of height. It does not have to be exact. It looks like I'm at 8.57, or sorry, 8.527 inches in height. What I want you to do is right click on your text, and you're going to tell it to duplicate. When you right click on your text or your work area, you're going to get this menu option here. And so I want you to come up here more towards the top and select this option here for duplicate. And then you're going to left click, and I want you to drag one of those fonts that you've got from your duplicate, and I want you to drag it off of your workspace. We're not going to need that until the end of the process. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in one more time for you on my screen so you can see the workspace a little bit better. And now we're going to get started on setting everything up to use with our rhinestones. Now that you have your text here on the screen, I want you to right click one more time and get that window option back up, that menu option. And after you right click, there is going to be this ungroup option here. I want you to left click on ungroup, And then we're going to right click one more time, and now I want you to tell it release compound path. And when I do that, it's going to convert all the colors on my screen, and it separates all the layers of the font. But I still want to see where I'm working, so I'm going to go in and I'm going to select my individual layers, and I'm going to change those colors for those layers back to what they were before. And that way I can see the design that I'm working with a little bit better and see my spacing. So you're going to go back in, change those colors really quick. Oops. If you select, like I selected the furthest outside layer, which is not the one that I wanted to change the color on, just hit your undo button. Come back over, select the right area. There we go. And now I've got all my colors back to the original design that I had. Now you don't have to do these colors. I'm just doing it so that everything matches throughout the tutorial. Okay, now that I've changed all my layers, these are now all ungrouped, and you see I can pull this out, and they are all individual moving pieces now from my font. So we're going to put all that back. All right, now that I have my individual layers, I want you to come to the centermost point of your design, which is this large B area here for the actual text, and we're gonna left click on that centermost text. Or sorry, not left click, I want you to right click. Apologies, you don't need to right click. Too much right clicking going on. Left click on the center B. Okay, we're going to left click on the center B, and now we need to create an offset for this, or an outline or a border to this. So once you've left click on your center B, you're going to come up here to the top. I want you to just select this option right here, which is your offset window. And when you left click on your offset window, it's going to open that window over here on the far right for you. And we need the top offset option right here in this window. And we're going to left click on offset. And when I click on offset, you're going to see this small line come up here on the screen around that B. Now you'll see my edges are curved, and I don't want those curved, and also this line is pushed out really far and getting really close to this red edge out here. And so if I were to use that offset line for my rhinestone template, it's actually going to cause the rhinestones to then overlap onto the vinyl. We don't want that. I need this offset line brought closer to the center of this white area. So to do that, to change those two things, get rid of the round edges. You see I have round here, which is selected, and then there's corner. So I now want you to left click on corner, and when you left click on corner, it's going to sharpen up the edges of that offset over here on your screen. But now I still need to change the distance because it's pushed too far out. And to do that, you're going to come to this distance box over here. And I already know, working with this size font, that the distance I want is 0.075 inches. And once you do that, you can hit enter on your keyboard or left click on apply right here on your screen, and it will automatically convert the distance of that offset for me. Now, without clicking on anything else, I'm going to leave that offset line selected. And I'm going to take my cursor, and I'm going to come up here to my rhinestone option. I'm going to left click on my rhinestone window. And my rhinestone options will now open up over here on the right. Working with a straight line like what we have here on the screen, all you're going to need is the edge option. So we're going to left click on edge, and your program is probably set to a default of the SS10s, so it's automatically going to plug in the SS10 rhinestones for you. And technically, if you wanted to, you could go ahead and use this and send this with these rhinestones to your cutter with just this portion. But I don't like this. I don't think this is finished because I have a gap here and also one gap down here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and change the distance of my rhinestones. And to do that, you have spacing. And I'm going to come over here to spacing. You have an arrow up option and an arrow down. And I want to add some more stones. So I'm going to select the arrow down portion. I'm just going to hold that down and let that run down. And you'll see as I'm doing that, it starts to change the distance on my screen. And there we go. Now my spacing that had that gap over in this area has been filled in. I'm going to click it up a little bit and see at what point does that space go away. Oh, there we go. And see, now I'm back to having that gap. And I'm at 0.018, so we're going to go down just a little bit more and fill that back in. There it is. So at 0.016, it's filled in that space for me. And now I have a nice rhinestone accent that's coming around my vinyl here, and all of my gaps are filled in and everything's nice and straight. Now I need to do this inside area, so we're going to do the same process again, and this will help you with the repetition of seeing what I need to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on this red line here in the center of the design. Oops, I moved that. Hit undo, and we're going to put that back to where it was. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to left click on this red line. We're going to go through the same exact steps one more time. So I'm going to left click on offset, and then we're going to get our offset options here. Left click offset there, tell it corner, and now I need to highlight and change my distance to 0.075 and hit enter or apply. And now there's my offset line right there through the middle of the white. And I'm going to come up to my rhinestone options again, left click on that. Oops, and when I did that, it changed my offset. So when that happens, just tell it undo again. And there we go, it shrunk it back down. So now I have my offset line. I'm going to now left click on edge for my rhinestones. And we need the distance to match the this outside portion that we already did. So I'm going to highlight my spacing, and I'm going to change that to the same spacing, which was 0.016. And if I click down here in this empty white space, it'll automatically convert all that distance or that spacing for me and add my rhinestones in there. That looks good. And then what I do, I'm going to do that now on the bottom portion here. So I'm going to left click. Oops. My program's being a little finicky right now. Tell that undo. Moved everything. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to left click on the red portion here, and we're going to do the same offset process one more time. So I'm going to select my offset here, change it to a corner, change my distance to 0.075. I'm going to tell it apply, and then I'm going to select my rhinestone option, and I'm going to tell it to do an edge, and then we want to change our spacing to match everything else we've already done to 0.016. Click on my empty space down here. It'll move everything and shift the stones for me, and I like the way that looks. Now if I click out here on my white empty workspace, it will get rid of the box that I have around here, and now I can see that my rhinestone design is fitting in all of my empty space where I need it nicely, both there and in these two areas here in the middle. So now I want to get rid of my original layers that are there that I was working with, and to do that I'm just going to click left click here in the center of my text that's on the screen. We're going to left click, and we're going to start deleting out all of the layers. Just left click one layer at a time really quick. Left click, delete, left click, delete, delete, and delete. And now you'll see I'm left with just my rhinestone design. Now what I want you to do is left click on your screen and drag, and you're going to select everything that's there with your rhinestones on the screen. And now I want you to right click on that design, and you're going to tell it to group. And now if you just come over to the far left to your rectangle option, and we're going to draw a box around our rhinestones here, and let that go. And now this is your rhinestone template design, and once you have your sticky flock loaded into your cutter, this is now ready to be sent to your cutter and will match your vinyl portion for your final application on your product. I'm going to zoom out really quick to show you, because remember at the beginning of the tutorial we made a duplicate. So here's our duplicate letter. Oops, I still have my rectangle option selected. Let me delete that off of there. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to select my original duplicate here, and I'm going to drag it over, and you'll see that my duplicate is matching up with my rhinestones where I need it to. And once I've cut this rhinestone template from my sticky flock in my Silhouette Cameo, I can now come over here to select my duplicate. And remember, to cut vinyl you need to do your mirror image, and to do that I just quickly right click on that and I tell it to flip horizontally, and that'll give me a mirror image to now send this to the cutter once I have my vinyl also loaded into my Cameo. and you're done. Once you create your rhinestone application in your sticky flock, you'll have your transfer ready, and you'll have your vinyl once you weeded out the empty spaces where you need to here in the center areas, and also in the areas where your rhinestones are going to go, and your product will be done after you heat press. So now, just to show you the whole process again and show you how quick it really is, if my program would catch up with me, that would be nice. I'm going to delete everything off of my screen, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to show you this whole process again in real time, just so that you can see how quick it is. And I'm going to type in my capital B again. I'm going to change my font to the Varsity font. I'm going to select that and extend it out and change my sizing so that it's about 8.5 inches. There we go. And so that you can see what I'm working with, I'm going to go back and I'm going to change my fill color one more time. And now I'm going to right click, tell it to duplicate that image. So now I have my duplicate to cut my vinyl when I'm all done. And I'm going to come back over to my original text, zoom in a little bit more here. It'd be nice if my program would cooperate today. Drag that back down to my screen. Okay, now right click on my original text, tell it ungroup, right click again, tell it release compound path. I'm going to go back in now and change my fill colors. It's funny when you can work faster than what your screen is keeping up with. Okay, now that we have all of our fill colors and our line layer colors changed so that we can see where we're working, I'm now going to select my inside text here and left click on that, and I'm going to select my offset option, tell it offset, tell it corner, change my distance to the 0.075. I'm going to hit enter or apply. Now I'm going to select my rhinestone tool and see, there we go, it did it again where it bumped that offset out when I selected rhinestones. So I'm going to tell it undo, and it's going to shrink that offset right back into the center for me. And now I'm going to tell it to go to edge on my rhinestones. I'm at my SS10s, and now I need to change that spacing back to 0.016. I'm going to tell it enter, and it's going to plug in all those empty gaps for me. Now I'm going to do my center areas. I'm going to do one at a time. You can hit your shift button and hold it down and select both center areas, but I'm just going to do one at a time so you can see me go through this process again a little quicker with each step. Change the distance 0.075, enter. Now my rhinestone option keeps changing my offset there. Okay, tell it undo and put my offset back in the middle. Tell it edge, change that rhinestone spacing to 0.016, enter. And now we're going to select the bottom red line here, offset, tell it corner, change the distance 0.075 again, enter or apply, go to the rhinestone option, and again it keeps changing that offset line, so I'm going to tell it undo and have it bring that offset line back down. And then we're going to tell it edge on our rhinestones, change our rhinestone spacing one more time, 0.016, tell it enter, and now I'm going to come in here, I'm going to delete all of my layers. I'm going to select my rectangle option, create my box around my template, and there we go. And now I have my completed rhinestone template ready to send to my cutters. So that whole process, especially if your program isn't acting up like mine is today, the whole process, once you get used to the steps, actually will take you maybe a minute to do one of these letters. So you could actually sit down and in less than an hour have the entire alphabet A through Z done and your numbers 0 through 9. So again, be sure like Big Texas Bling on Facebook, and also check out our website, bigtexasbling.com, and be sure to send me a message if you have any questions. Thank you.